set out the year with a goal and said, all right, how do we get, we started the year like in the low 200s. We were like, how do we get to like 500? What's that number look like? And we kind of backed into
Right.
how many we need to recruit each month and how many we assume 35% attrition. And what does that look like? And what does the net number end up being?
Yep.
Well, we've had less than 10% attrition this year through September.
Remarkable.
So, but that comes down to we have a different mindset that's hard to teach in brokerage. I invest in a lot of W-2 employees.
Welcome to the Maverick podcast, where I sit down with proven, tested leaders who take you behind the curtain of their business, sharing with you how they got to where they're at today and the things that they're doing right now so you can take it back and use in your business. And today, I have my good friend, Tony Hanson from Paracle Better Homes and Gardens. Tony, what's happening, man?
Hey man, thanks. Super excited to be here. And definitely joining you here today on what is it? It's Friday, November 1st. So,
It's November. Like how perfect it is. We get to sit down here on the first day of the month.
yep. So lots of good stuff happening here in the Carolinas, but it's been a wild year. Definitely been a wild year.
Yeah, well, let's jump in. I think give everyone a little bit of a backfill. I think the backstory is really cool, but I want to really focus in on what you guys have done over the last 18 months, and maybe it's a 24 month, but I would say to bring yourself to a point where you guys are selling 200 homes a month, among all the other things that you guys are doing
Yeah.
too. But take us back to the real quick origin story of Paracle Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick history. So the company started in 2012 by my business partner Lucas, and going back, we had actually met years and years ago, and then we re-met up back in like 2010, 2011 when he moved to the Carolinas, and I had actually moved here in like '06 from Michigan, but he had been an attorney for a number of years, had a lot of success, but kind of got tired of it and decided he wanted to get into real estate. He had kind of built up a portfolio of rental properties. And I felt like every time he was working with realtors, a lot of them didn't bring really a brainwave to the transaction. And he was like, I feel like I could do this better. And the fact that he was an attorney, he always felt like people came to him to, like come alongside and protect and, be a good counselor. And he said, every time I talked to realtors, I'd ask their opinions, and most of them couldn't tell me whether it was a good thing or, what do you want to do? It was more, they were more just, he calls them, door openers and paper pushers was about all they were getting. So he's like, I think he can do this better. So he made the decision in 2012 to go ahead and quit his very successful career and start a brokerage. So fast forward, it was kind of like, about every 2 to 3 years, the company was doubling in size, and he was primarily buying leads at the time and having some real good success with it. And by 2016, 2017, him and I were he was about the only friend I had because I'm a workaholic, and he was about the only guy I'd hang out with. But by
Yeah.
2017, 2018, we started talking about like what it could look like to grow. And Better Homes and Gardens had reached out to us, and we're looking to partner with someone to kind of expand the region. And so we said, all right, let's see what this could look like. And we had known a couple very successful operators in Texas and Georgia that had grown really large organizations with Better Homes and Gardens. So we're like, let's see if we can do something similar. So 2018, I actually became a partner with Lucas, and we went from about 25 agents at that time to where we are today, sitting at 350-ish to 400 agents. So 2018, 25 agents and $3 million in GCI, to where we started basically every year just coming up with a strategy to how do we double, how do we double, how do we double. So um, that's been kind of the focus is growth. So growth has always been, it seemed pretty easy to do. When you're in growth mode, it's easy to keep going, going, going. But eventually it's like every year you got to sit down and say, hey, what am I going to do to maintain that or maintain what I have, or how do I grow again? Because you kind of get addicted to it. It's like you get addicted to that growth, and when you hear a number that's not going up, you're like, what am I doing wrong, or what can I do differently? And it's like I can't do the same thing that I did last year and try to get the same result. I got to go if I want to grow again. So what does that look like? So if you fast forward, 2020 was what we thought was going to be a hard year. It was a great year for us. We didn't buy into COVID. We literally never closed. We launched through it. We had incredible success. That rhino that sits behind me on this wall here, we had thick skin, and we charged massively into that storm. and never shut down. And it paid dividends for us because 2021, we ended up having, the record year that everyone else had, but we had it even bigger because it was like, for us, it was almost $25 million in GCI when just 3 years prior, we were a $3 million GCI company. So it's kind of like, how the heck did that happen? Right. So, but then 22, 23 hits and it's like, hey, everyone said it was going to be the same over and over. We have low
How
inventory.
did they get away with doing that? You remember
Yeah.
that? Everyone's
Yeah.
quoting, oh, it's what didn't
It
they
won't
always use?
stop.
I was housing shortage, doesn't
Yeah.
matter what happens, right?
Yep. Yeah. That was the message. And so I believed them, hey, no problem, we'll keep going. But it was definitely hard. The only thing that was good was the sales volume never slowed down. So as prices went up, your volume went down, but your GCI still was pretty
Sure.
stable, or your advisors might have done less units, but they were making similar money,
Right.
which was good. But we were finding cost of leads were going up, cost of doing business, that whole inflation thing that we had going on, cost of operating was still going up, but your profit was going down. So, that was something that really we had to get our head around in 23. And, it just kept slowly eroding, but we made a decision, I would say in fall of 23, where I was like, we're not going to have another year of down. Like we had 2 years of down. And it wasn't like we were losing money. It just wasn't what I was kind of tired of it. And I actually was on my morning call this morning, I talked about something about purging. And I was like, when you look at your life, you got to figure out how to purge certain things to do more. And I remember looking at the end of 23, I'm like, if we're going to do something differently, it's not working. 22 and 23, we went down. We've got to change it. We got to purge what we're currently doing and do something differently into 24 in order to get the results that we're looking for. And we've done just that. So 24, I'll give that we hired you. That was a good adder. But we've really appreciated the relationship and the accountability and the network of people and the collaboration of the group. It's been really, really, really powerful, from going to the Maverick events to the Tahoe events to just having access to you and having access to all the people around it, whether it's the Dan Beers or the Matt Smiths. I mean, all the group has been really, really powerful, because we've taken little pieces of everyone's recipe, plugged it into ours the way it fits for us, and then we've run pretty hard with it. So I actually printed before I got here, before this morning. I was like, I better have some numbers in front of me, because I don't want to I don't like when people just make stuff up. Be like, yeah, I make $1 million a month, and I'm like, you don't make $1 million a month.
Right. Well, you
Um,
guys really, I mean, listen, you were, and thank you, appreciate the kind words, but I mean, you guys are great business operators. You had a great business, and the one thing that I look at it in my events, and you've contributed so much now too in the last year. Many people have taken away from you, but I remember, and it wasn't from me, but it was those people in Tahoe. I mean, you guys left Tahoe September of 23 and went bananas.
oh yeah.
I mean, and when I say bananas, implementation, you pick some things. Would you say that, what, 12, 14, 15 months ago, 18 months ago, as you got tired of, hey, listen, the growth isn't where I want to go. Take us into that place, because now you guys are doing 200 sales a month is what
Oh
you're
yeah.
sitting at
Yeah.
right now.
Consistent. Yeah, it's been consistently, and it's like kind of like what I was just saying a minute ago on that. Like, at some point, everyone has, it's like, until you have the heart attack, you don't stop eating the cheeseburgers and fries, right? So it's kind of like you just keep doing that thing until something says you got to stop. So it's like, this is the time to purge. And I just remember sitting there, and I brought Brandy with us because we had just recently promoted her to
Yes.
23. And she was asking me like, hey, I want to start going to some of these functions and networking things that you do, and I want to grow my leadership capabilities. And I was like, you know what? Let's go check out this Tahoe event. So when we left, we had one of your Maverick books, and we took tons of notes in it. And I remember her looking at me at the last day, and she said, you know what? We do a lot of the stuff that we heard from a lot of the people, but there's just a lot of things that we could just fine tune.
So
She's
good.
like, we've got so many things that we do well, but it's like a lot of us do that, right? You kind of you do it like 80%. You don't do it 100% or 100. You throwing ideas out there, and then it's like, hey, what did we do with this? Or did we not really complete that? Because all of us are really good at coming up with like the visionary. like I got an idea, but then execution is so much different, and actually following through and then staying disciplined to doing that, which most people just don't have that discipline. So the do what you have to do when you have to do it, whether you feel like doing it or not. When you finally get that recipe down, that's when you start getting it. And for us, it was more of, yeah, we want to recruit, but were we really being disciplined to it is like, you kind of check in every month. How many people recruit? You'd run a quick report, but we weren't looking at it from a week to week basis. We weren't tracking any numbers. So if I took one thing from there, it was kind of like Gelman got up there and started yelling at everybody. And it was awesome. He was
Oh
just like,
man.
he was so fired up there. And I was like, yeah, we need to get a little stronger on this. Like, I would say I'm more easygoing. I like to see the books and kind of look at it and be like, all right, I can
Right,
fix it. But,
right.
he was real intense on about the P&Ls and the things that you're really paying attention to. And I was like, this is good. So, we walked away with some things like, you know what, we need to step up our accountability. You get what you inspect type thing. And it was like, as much as we all hate meetings, we need to have shorter meetings that are just keeping people accountable to making sure that we're hitting the goals. Cause no one needs hour-long meetings, and that's what we were all doing. And it's like, no one wants to sit in meetings all day and not do anything.
What talk about recruiting. What again, you guys have been in the conversion game and online lead gen game and hanging out with all the, the notables throughout North America. You've been in those rooms for years.
Yeah.
And the recruiting game. Talk about what changes did you guys make? Certainly there was the awareness. What would you say it was um more of an intentionality, more measurement? I mean, what I find a lot of
Yeah.
times is people will measure their lead conversion, the calls, the emails, the text, the database, but they rarely inspect the recruiting side. Was there an inspection and an activity piece? What flipped that for you?
Great question. And for us, we'd always thought we were great at recruiting. We had done a lot of really cool stuff over the years that people would be like, "Hey, we want to copy what you're doing. Send us your playbook." And we thought we did do some things. I mean, I will tell you, like during COVID, we were right as COVID ended. Like I think literally, no, it wasn't ended. Like COVID hit in March. As
Right.
soon as restaurants reopened in May, we were hosting events at restaurants because we were in North Carolina and South Carolina that would allow us, like, we'd kind of like, hey, if we can have people sitting 6 feet apart in a big room, can I host a event and we're going to provide lunch? So we were getting people into rooms in May of 2020, and we were doing it like Capitol Grill and all these higher end places, like, hey, come to a bougie restaurant, we know you want to come out. So we were doing these events in really cool places, and we would get 10 to 20 people to show up in all of 2020, and we were recruiting, and we had so many people that hated us. I mean, we had people being like,
Oh.
you're preying on a lot of broker, and we were just like, hey, we're working, we're around, we have, because people were sitting at home and they were going to realtor.com and Zillow saying I hate my house, and we were getting, our lead flow went through the crazy in 2020. I kept thinking there was going to be a cliff. Every week I was like, it's going to die, but it didn't. So that's what fueled us into 21. Well, then, how you kind of do certain things, you keep doing it, and then sometimes just like we stopped getting the show rate. Like it was like, you'd
At
start
the
at
events.
the events, you'd kind of just
Right.
like the show
Right.
rate started kind of dipping, and we were like, all right, this is a lot of work. How can we scale ourselves? So that was what was real powerful for us, is going to Tahoe. There was some good recruiting tips, but then in December when we were in Vegas at the Maverick event, it was like 6 to 8 weeks later, there was even more stuff. I think Matt Smith spoke at that one, and that's when he talked a little bit about like the day in the life of, which we haven't really done that yet, but he talked
Okay.
about a lot of his funnels and how he gets people in. And we own a real estate school, and we kind of were thinking we don't really probably do a great job with getting that capture. Um, and we kind of just started thinking about what we use and what we do. And then we'd hired you, and you kind of had to get comfy. And, we started, it's more like you said, why does recruiting go up this time of year? Or because people are making more calls, right? Well, it was the same
Yeah.
thing for us. It was like, we just started putting some process around it. And I think one of the things that was really unique that took off, and we're starting to see that people are liking it, is we're doing personalized video text. That was kind of like what we came back with and said, let's do personalized video text. And how many do we think we can send a week? Well, we started as leaders, and as our operations manager, Stephanie, she's been doing 150 to 200 personalized video text a week. And that's been a huge game changer for us. So that conversion is usually like, we started that in October after we left. And that has paid the dividends to where right now we've been able to recruit over 160 people just with one person in this calendar year. And now my goal is to figure out how to scale that with multiple people that maybe won't be as good as Stephanie, because it's hard to replicate a Stephanie. Because everyone's
And she's amazing. I love her. What was really neat, I think, for people to hear, I just want to point this out because you get to hear and learn from him, but there's other things that just little pieces that come to me is Tony just spoke at Tahoe and laid it out and what they're doing. But he made sure to illuminate and highlight and really grandstand in a complimentary way his leader. You know, you got to put your leaders out front and recognize them for what they do. Let me ask you this real quickly because
yeah.
she's shooting those videos. Is she? Do you have multiple people interviewing, Tony, or is it just her that's handling all the interviewing also?
So she handles a lot of that, but then she does the initial like kind of 15 to 20 minute introductory. But what we
Is that
took
on
away
Zoom or in person?
on Zoom.
Okay.
Yep. That's how she scales herself. So it's like as soon as someone clicks on something, inquires about something, responds to something, she schedules like a 15-minute Zoom just to kind of open their mind. But she asked them before they meet to watch similar when the webinar jam is what we picked up in December from this was the scaling. So webinar jam was our huge takeaway from Las Vegas was all right, go back. We shot one during Christmas of like we did it in a restaurant. So we finally changed it because it was like we can't have this Christmas video all year long. But you know, we had Lucas went and shot a video like in an event space, and we had a bunch of people come in, and we did a webinar. So it looks like a webinar starting every 10 to 15 minutes on Webinar Jam, and it was awesome. I mean, people just started signing up, and it's great because now I'll be laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night, and it'll say, you know, John Cheplak just watched your video, and then the next thing you know, an email will come in and say, hey, I just watched the video. What's the next step to joining? And you're like, how did I just scale myself like that? That I'm not having to now have those because every team leader, every broker owner, every broker manager, sales manager, whatever they are, if that's part of their job to recruit, the hardest part of your day is handling the GATA minutes and the people you currently have and trying to recruit new people. And when you're trying to recruit new people, you're sitting there for an hour, you know, doing dinner, drinking, and dancing to try to get them excited about wanting to come join you. Now they watch an hour video on their timeline, and they're sitting there basically saying, "Hey, this was really good. I have a few questions before wanting to potentially consider joining." And this is not just newbies. I mean, it's team leaders,
Everyone.
it's everybody. Yep.
What you know, sure, this is really good to ideate out. Is okay, great. Here you've got this talented person, and she's doing all these things. If knowing what you know right now, what do you think you'll have someone come in to do? Are you going to bring in someone that's probably a good interviewer, or do you think it's someone maybe doing the outbound? If you were to look at right now, complementary,
To what
um,
she
what,
does. Yeah,
what do you
because
see?
yeah, because she would tell you it's no different than getting into a workout regimen. It's a disciplined weekly schedule, and she does it all in the morning. So she follows the mindset of hunt in the morning. I mean, it's hunt in the morning, eat in the afternoon. That's what she does. So she does all the calls before noon, and then her afternoon is appointments that come from the previous days of people responding to the video text. And then it's just following up, following through to get those people in the afternoons. And so she brings them in for office tours too. A lot of times it depends on the person. You know, you talk to them, it's like, hey, you know, you might be the type of person who needs to come see the office. You know, we'd love to introduce you to people, but we're big on look at the Rolodex, right? And so what I tell you, what we need next is really someone that's like 60 to 70% of her. Because you know, you're not
Good
going to
job.
replace that. So it's like, I need someone that can just, we can tell them this is the script, send the videos and get them excited. And then she can sit alongside of them and help with when they get the objections and they, you know, the stuff that comes up, how can they, because it's going to take probably a year to train that next person to be the next Stephanie. They won't come in knowing that. I mean, even when we've hired people that know real estate or people outside of it, it takes a while to truly understand how to handle the conversations because when there's 50 different broker compensation models and different things that it's hard to learn all that when someone tells like Stephanie, she's on her game. If someone says, I know this firm and this firm gives me this, or I have this type of split and I do
Okay.
handling all those conversations and or knowing how to stop that conversation and still keep them moving and handle objections is a total game changer because most people that these brokers hire, it's like they're like, hey, do you know John Cheplak? John told me to reach out to you and give you a call. He'd love to meet you. He's seen your numbers. You know, it's just dumb.
What,
That's
give everyone backfill real quick though, too, because I mean, we know this is it's the number one lever. I mean, you guys crush in leads and you dominate in the generating of leads, the conversion of leads, but who cares if you don't have people? And so you have this great pressure, um, building of more agents coming in and
Yep.
selling homes. But what was her background? Where did she come from? Did you pull her off the sales floor and maybe she wasn't doing that good in sales, but would follow a process? Was she a staff member in leadership, administrative, outside the company?
Yeah.
Tell us
Great
where she
question.
came from.
Yeah, so Stephanie and I actually worked together on our home building company. She was kind of our call it like admin operations manager. She's kind of grown with us for years, but she can do anything with. She's a very dot the I cross the T type of person. If you like, hey, if we
Okay.
needed to call somebody, and she's very like she's high. She would be like if you look at a disc type thing, she's a higher on the S and C.
Okay.
But she does have a good D and an I, meaning like she can be gregarious, she can talk to people, but her dot the I, cross the T, check it off, make sure it gets done is definitely her. So she has that skill set. So one of the things I would tell you is that we've always appreciated about Stephanie is she's a team player and she loves to win. So and like anybody that if you can show her a path to make more money, she was excited about that. But we knew that we needed to recruit and she kind of just said, hey, I want to do this. Now I will tell you, it took her time. She'll tell you it took time to, you got to kind of bang your head on getting some hard conversations with people that want to fight with you over, my compensation plan or, and you got to realize how do you open the mind? If you get her on the phone, it's kind of like think about when Amy Winans got up on stage with her operations manager or whatever, and they did that role play
Yeah.
of finding a buyer agency. She's the same way now. When somebody tries to say like you can't beat what I've got, she can sit there and break it down for you on the phone and be like, you're leaving money on the table by you think that you have a good program, but you're actually losing money because no one's expanded your mindset to go here. And it's like, oh, and you listen to her speak her game now, where the typical person would be like, oh, well, it sounds like you're happy where you are. And if anything ever
Oh,
changes,
yeah. Let me
give me-"
know.
yeah.
We'll be here.
Yeah. She's ready to go. So that
That's
takes
so good.
time to build
Yeah.
that sales skill set of how to respond to
Do you think,
someone.
Tony, and we've never chatted about this, but I want to throw it out there to you. Do you think the recruiting, prospecting, the phone call, the objections, the interview, the lead follow up, uh, do you think that's harder than buyers, or do you think working with a buyer and converting a buyer is harder? What do you think? Not for you, but I would just say as a whole, if you're looking at the industry and as you talk to people around the industry, what are your thoughts?
Say the question again. I just want to make sure I'm
Do
following
you,
it.
do you, do you think recruiting someone's harder than recruiting someone and bringing them over to your company, the whole
Oh,
process, the marketing, the phone call, the
I think it's the
objection, the
same.
interview? Think it's the same?
I think it's the same. I mean, it's that's what we love about it. And we've been using it in our firm to say, like, Stephanie does this to go recruit. It's the same thing. Like, if you guys would just do 150 video text to the database, some of you are afraid of the phone.
Tony, you
But
know
like,
what, right?
yeah, if
What would happen in conversion just with video text? Come on.
yeah, like some of you are afraid of picking up the phone. So it's like if you get a video text, and because we actually had a person the other day in here that said to us, she was like, I walked by her and she says, Tony, I got a question for you. I said, what is it? She's like, I gotta ask you, you love sales. She's like, I have someone that asked me if I'm a real person, what would you do? I was like, I'd send a video text. It's
Exactly.
like they're they were like, I was like, send a video text and be like, it's me, I'm real. I was like,
So good.
it's so easy to do today. And most people, what we found when we started sending, a lot of times people ignore the first couple because they think it might be fake. But then when they get it like the third time, like 3 months in a row, it's kind of like, oh, that's real. But I think it's, obviously it's a little different, but it's the same thing. It's cold calling
Yeah.
into, it's cold video texting, cold calling into people, but that soft video that lands in their text or in an email, what we're finding is we're then hitting them with weekly, we hit them with 2 emails a week. The same people that we're doing the video text with are getting 2 emails a week, one midweek and one Saturday morning. And so we're just continuing to hit them with stuff. And then we'll eventually see that person clicks on something or they download like I shared with you yesterday, our 21-day fix. This is what we're going to spend the next 60 days teaching people is, if you want to fix your business in 21 days, we've got you set so that out of the next 60 days, I've got 21 days covered for you. So that's the message going out today, or sorry, tomorrow on Saturday. And we'll get a bunch of people that are going to download this 21-day fix, guaranteed. Well, then that'll be her people that she's going to start following up with, because we know that they're engaged with us. And so we've
Are you
tested
going to
a
use that
lot.
as a lead magnet then? A
Yes.
download?
Yep.
So smart.
Yep. So this we're giving it to our agents are starting on Monday with it.
Right.
And what we did is I hadn't been to Savannah in a while, but they have a Thompson hotel there now, one of those boutique Thompson.
Love Savannah,
We're
man.
so what we booked, I booked like 20 some rooms the other night, and we basically told our team, if you do the 21 days, so you have to do every day and check in, because it's the stuff that we already expect them to do, John. It's make 5 phone calls and 5 texts, emails and calls, and then it has something that they have to do, like get a Google review. There's stuff in here, update your Zillow, Realtor, Homes.com, LinkedIn profiles with a picture that looks like you. So it's really just, doing a
Simple
little
stuff.
check up from the neck up, but it's a daily thing, creating a virtual business card, go into your CRM and clean it up in your database, ask for referrals through video, email, do a video in front of a listing if it's not yours, or a company listing, launch your farming campaigns. I mean, it's really stuff that they should be doing. But
Right.
if we do this in November and December, it's going to help, hopefully, because November, December, January, February are always the months as broker team leaders where you're just like, oh my gosh, these are like the nail biters.
That's when my mom used to tell me, she said, and I was a kid. I think I was 8 years old. She said, my banker, where you going, mom? And she said, I'm going to lunch with my banker. She said, and she says, January, February, sometimes March, I'm friends with my banker.
Yeah, that's when cash flow is a little softer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this because okay, great. Okay, great. The typical prospecting and um I want people to hear this from you. How important and how much attention and time do you as an organization, you certainly as a leader, but your organization put on the messaging in just an email? Let's just talk about the email that goes out to recruit prospects.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did is starting last year, we started a weekly meeting, because the meeting was something we weren't doing. We was just like, it was more, they always
Wing
say,
it.
we were saying casualness causes casualties, right? So I was too casual as a leader with like, hey, how do we do with recruiting? And hey, it's in their performance-based job description. They should be doing it. So you just assume that people are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of a quarter and it's like, we lost 6 people and we recruited 2. Like we're a -4. So you thought
Right.
you were doing okay, but you really weren't. So we added a Friday meeting, where the Friday meeting has a very simple agenda. It's we review what activities were done by each leader, and everyone just gives a quick, like, couple minute update. Like, I made this many calls, I had this face-to-face interviews, here's my conversion, here's who's onboarding, or here's who's coming in
Okay.
next week. I'm really close. Then we talk about our marketing team talks about what social media that we're creating. So I've got one right now that you're going to love. So I worked with my marketing guy a couple weeks ago. I said, hey, I was like, how there's so many like legal advertisements that you get all the time that say, like, if this has happened to you, you may be entitled to compensation. It's that type of thing. So I was like, if your brokerage overpromised and did all these things, you may be entitled to compensation. It's like, you've been screwed. Don't worry. So the first one I've got today is a milk jug that has your broker in charge is missing, like a missing campaign. So it's like, haven't seen, is your broker owner missing, your team leader missing? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. So we're creating a whole kind of fun campaign around it. So we ask our leaders to put that into their social media, drop it into the recruits that they're talking to, just to have some fun. And then we review our 2 emails that are going to go out the following week. So we're always shooting different video, and we always start with, just like you've taught us, we look at what's the subject line? Is there a good hook? What's the hook?
So
And then we look, and then we get them reading downhill. And try to figure out how we're going to get them to click on different things, like what download are we putting in there, or do we have any YouTube videos that we've shot the last couple of weeks that we need to add in that are testimonials of people that joined us a month ago and already have 2 homes under contract after going through our training program. Whatever it might be, it's that type of stuff that we're putting into that email. So that's been very powerful because I'm not just expecting it. Because what I used to do is just be like, we need to have a weekly email that goes out. And then a
What should
month,
we do? And we wing it.
yeah. Well, and then the next month I'd be like, hey, did we send emails? And be like, yeah, I think we did
Oh,
one. We did one.
yeah.
We did one, I definitely need to do that this week, because it's that if you're not managing it, it's reckless.
Yeah, really good. Well, let's go even deeper too, because a lot of people will, I mean, what do you call it? Air, land, sea. So great. You've got someone that's willing to make the calls, send the text message, do the videos, do the interviews. You've got you're neurotic about the messaging and the email. Um, but let's go a step further too. How would you on a 1 to 10 and not brag let's not even go from a, hey, it's awesome. Let's just go to, we'll let everyone else measure it. We've got our opinions. But on 1 to 10, how would you rank your, and 10 being excellent, your intensity, your intentionality around social media messaging too, to support all this stuff? So you're just omnipresent. No, or is it no? Hey, we got good emails, make the calls, video text. Talk about that.
Well, I can tell you, me personally, I'd always, I think I got on Facebook in 2008 and I thought this is so stupid. No one's ever going to use this, but whatever. Right. So I continued to keep putting stuff on. And so, but you kind of pushed on it, I think in Tahoe last year, that you got to post at least 3 times a day. It was like something personal, something motivational, something business. It was like these three things get out there on a daily basis. And I've made that commitment to that discipline. Have I hit 3 a day? Not always, but I don't miss a day. I mean, I don't miss a day. I'm always putting something out there, and looking for things. So, and then I'm very intentional with every week making sure that we have content not only for our individuals, our brokerage, but I mean, every week we put tons of, call it, resources out there that I want all the agents around town seeing that my agents have all this at their fingertips. So there's tons of social media content that we create, whether it's seller content, investor content, loan content, and it's all done for you marketing that our team does for them. And then in addition, um, we're constantly doing stuff to recruit. So I've probably now got over 100+ templates of now hiring type billboards with different messaging that we put out in our stories and our walls and our reels, and everybody in the company, we drop it into a group text every week. And it's like, here's your new stuff, drop it. And figure out ways to highlight. And then something that we haven't been great at this year, but we've gotten a lot more intentional and better at, is making sure that we highlight success. And we talked
Ah,
about it again on our call this week,
sure.
with you and with our leadership team, because there's so much happening every week that's like, hey, like we had a guy that just started with us 3 weeks ago. He just got his first contract last night. It's like that leader needs
Everyone
to
knows.
stop where they're at because that leader isn't posting. And it's like, yeah, I'm so busy, I forget. And it's like, it takes like 2 minutes. I don't want to encourage people to do this while they're driving, but a lot of times in between,
Right.
while I'm driving, in between like lights, when I stop at a light, I'm literally, you know, finishing my thought in my text that I'm doing. It's
Right.
just, instead of sitting there listening to Pearl Jam, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and get get this done and finish up my message, because I want to continue to be an attractor. I mean, you said it best in Tahoe of 23. You were like, I don't stand on my stages and ask for coaching. People come to me. And I've always been a big preacher of being a magnet. Like, I'm not a pushy salesperson. I'm a pulley. I'm a pulley. So it's like, I just want to pull you in. And I
Right.
don't know, there's going to be a bunch of levers that do that, but eventually I attract you. And that's what I'm looking to do. And so many people just don't know how to get started. They're like, you don't realize how busy I am. I'm like, listen here, I am so much busier than you could ever think. I operate in an 18-hour day and I use all the hours. Um, so you don't tell me you're too busy.
No. So you've got this machine going, which has been just that you continue to optimize, and you guys are really intentional about it. So here's the marketing machine. You've got the human resource, and you have the assets, and the action takers. Um, I always know the other shoe drops. People say, yeah, well, he's recruited 160 agents, but how many has he kept? Why don't you talk to people about your attrition?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You may know or not know. I think I told it on the stage in Tahoe, but you had told us at the beginning of the last year, like you're going to recruit more, but expect there to be more falling. So it was like, all right, no problem. So we set out the year with a goal and said, all right, how do we get? We started the year like in the low 200s. We were like, how do we get to like 500? What's that number look like? And we kind of backed into
Right.
how many we need to recruit each month and how many we assume 35% attrition, and what does that look like, and what does the net number end up being?
Yep.
Well, we've had less than 10% attrition this year through September.
Remarkable.
So, but that comes down to we have a different mindset that's hard to teach in brokerage. I invest in a lot of W-2 employees. So my payroll is big, but those people, we have big expectations for them to support them, because so many times we tell someone we can deliver for them, but then I really can't back it up. It's like, oh yeah, we have a luxury program. And then it's like someone comes in, it's like, so what's the luxury program? It's like, just log into the company portal there and you're going to see some assets, and it's like you just kind of let them go. And then the next thing you know, they're like, they don't really have what they say they have. Or they say they have leads, but I got there and you can't claim one. Or they say they have, or it's I just recruited an $8 million producer from another firm that over Labor Day weekend, it was so great. Um, a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in 2 years, talking about social media. Um, I haven't talked to him in 2+ years. He did something for me on my development side.
Right.
Um, and he lives out of state now, but one of his good friends was a realtor. And what had happened is over Labor Day weekend, she had a fire and could not get anyone at this big brokerage to return her call. And they didn't call her back until Tuesday after Labor Day, and that was enough to blow her deal up. So she told her friend, "I'm leaving. I'm so mad. You don't know." And the friend was like, "Well, you should call my friend Tony. That was all from social media." So I introduced as soon as I get the text message with a group like, "Hey, meet my friend. This is an $8 million producer at a very big firm that you would know." And she calls and I'm like, "Hey, let me just get you connected with Stephanie." Stephanie got her onboarded that afternoon. We moved 8 listings over from her company to our organization. And then she's like, "I've got buyers ready to go." And I'm like, holy crap. This had nothing to do with it because we had lead gen or anything. She was just pissed that the firm that she was at didn't support her. And it's a big firm, but it was a holiday weekend. So most of them just felt like, I don't have to call you back. Well, we always say we work every day that ends in Y. So if you have a problem from 8 to 8 or even 9 o'clock, don't call us about your personal issues at 9 o'clock at night. But if you're trying to get a deal done and you need us, like text us, be like, "Hey, I'm trying to get a deal. I'm in a multiple offer." And sales and closing is what makes the world go round. And we live by that. So if it means helping you get a sale and a closing, our team's going to be here to support you.
Really good. So you've got the human resource coming in. Certainly there's the things that you do from an overarching perspective, but you've got great leaders too. You have 4 sales managers right now that are really truly
Yeah.
driving sales.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have what's called sales support. So I don't have any admins. So every office has a sales support. So there's 4 offices, all of them have their own sales support. And sales support are really people that like can help these people do reels. They help them with all their social media. They help them. They're kind of like a backup to the marketing department, but you can come in and meet with anyone in sales support every single day and have them help you with your websites, with your follow-up boss, and making sure things work. And then we have other people. So it's really I don't have any like admins or like director of first impressions that sit at the desk and answer phones and just smile. Like, this person is you are assisting sales and closings. Uh,
Beautiful.
so that's what they do. Um, but yeah, this year, we definitely wanted to turn it on its head. So between that recruiting and intentionality, I focus on listings, and we're not where we want to be yet, but I've got a plan for 25. And then adding in more accountability in our CRM and having these coaching calls that we do now. So we basically have taken the Cheplak approach of, if John can do 100 coaching calls in a week, we can do it too. So it's like, just schedule these people 15, 20 minutes a week. Let's do a checkup from the neck up, help these people, get them on the path to reviewing their top 10 in their pipeline, get them rolling. That's been helpful too in the last second half of this year. Because yesterday I did a video, playing the song by what is it, Europe, the final countdown, because it
Oh
was
yeah.
it's we turned it on, and Randy, had a record-breaking month from just our lead gen program in Charlotte. He got 57 closings, which broke the last record in 21 of 53. So 21, we all know, was a record-breaking year. So here it is moving forward into 3 years later, we broke the record. October of 21 was 53 closings. October of 24 was 57 closings. So I played a little final countdown. This is how you end the month when you know you've got 57 in the bag and you beat a record. But it's been really, really good this year to talk through what is all these different things that we've put in place do. We didn't go backwards this year. So yesterday, my CFO wrote me and said, just in Charlotte alone, he goes, gentlemen, last year, the month's not closed out. I mean, I won't know the numbers, the GCI numbers, until we know what closed yesterday. So probably 3-4 more days, I'll get the real numbers. But he's like,
Right.
everything that closed out today, you're up 34% over last year. And still a lot of transactions yet to process. He goes, you're at 1.6665328 in GCI. Last year, you were at 1.251. So October, when coming off of last year, I was probably depressed coming out of Tahoe saying, we're going to turn this around.
Yeah.
It's up 400,000. That's just one city. So when you look at the entire company this year, we're sitting at over 1,500 closings. We've got sales volume of almost 700 million and GCI of almost 17 million, and I still got 2 more months to go. So we're gonna keep charging. It's gonna be a great year, and 25 is gonna be even bigger. The only challenge I have is, as I said at the beginning, we've got to figure out what we did this year. I can't do the same things over and expect to grow 30%. I'm gonna have to add new components that we didn't do well this year and still maintain what we did last year with some of these new things. That I think it's going to be the listing game, because Ryan Young, that was my big takeaway. We've been working with him now over a year with Fellow,
Sure.
maybe 2 years. It's probably been 2 years, because when I saw him, when he stood up in your room the first time I was in Tahoe, you just pulled him out of the air. He didn't know you just like, hey, Ryan Young's in the room. I don't sell this product, but I want him to just boom. And
Yep.
you'd stand up. We were already on it. We had been on the program maybe like 6 months at that time. So, but just watching how he does it, and you had him speak last year in December, and it was like he pulled up his website, and his website had this, like, as soon as you log in, it's like, what's my home value? And I was like, we need a better website that has those hooks. Like we've spent so much, we're so good on buyers that we really need to get better at this listing game. So we're getting better, but I'm gonna have to hire a lead manager that just manages the listing team and a specific team. So you and I've been talking about that. That's going to be the Brittany conversation. That's going to, getting that white glove process down. And we just got to get stronger there. And I think that could be that 20 to 30% multiplier for next year. That could be the 25 changer, because the buy side, we got that down. It's just now, what do I do here?
It's interesting because that's what Greg Harrelson focused on last week. He was talking
Okay.
about that. Yep,
Conversion con?
yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
about, he's going all in on the seller thing. You guys will crush that. Let's end with this one here real quickly, and we'll have to do this again. We'll get more into the conversion side of stuff. But I think this is one that's really, really helpful. You mentioned Randy, and the neat thing is I've been able to get to know these people and work with them, and then hear Randy's breaking records. Tell everyone the profile of a record breaking sales manager, and he didn't wake up there, but what is, as you look at Randy, what's his day like? What's his focus like? What is he like? Right? What's the makeup of a record breaking? We could go into Randy and Brandy. Brandy's a superstar, but just let's talk about Randy right now. Brandy's going into something that she's taken over and rocket shipping that thing. But
Yep.
how about Randy?
Randy is a good story too, because he actually applied for a broker position for us in another city, but I think he was at Keller Williams at the time, and I really liked him. We went and had an interview with him, and I was like, we were interviewing him to be like a broker in charge. And
Like
after,
the deal doctor type, you
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Oh,
compliant, like a compliance person. And
and if you meet him, you'd see him and think that's who he is. This isn't a guy that's going to charge sales, right?
yeah. Yep. So when we first met him, but after we kind of talked with him, he'd never done lead gen, but I thought, maybe he can help with recruiting. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I was like, I liked him as a
Yeah.
person. So I was like, let's bring him into the organization. So we did bring him in. And then it's been more refining a system because he came more out of that Keller Williams mindset of like, hey, more of a farming approach, and we had more of a lead gen approach that we were like, hey, we want you to go in here and teach people this. And so I would say it took a little bit of time of teaching him follow up boss, but now as he's seen light bulbs go off and even coaching with you, you've heard him say like, hey, I was a little hesitant to try this or test this because it's like it's out of my comfort zone, but I've done it and now I've seen the results and I'm getting. And so Randy's no different than anybody in leadership. When you start seeing your salespeople making money, it makes you want to make more money.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
and then you start questioning like, should I just go back into sales? What should I do? So Randy, has done a really good job of building people up, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And it's like anything when you're working with people, we're all trying to row the boat, and we can't have one person only using the right arm because we're just going to start doing circles, right? So he's gotten in there and we're all kind of rowing together to go towards the destination that we want to go to. And I think a lot of us, there's an old saying that I heard from the founder of Chick-fil-A, or his son, Dan Cathy, said, all of us have great intentions. But it's direction, not intention, that gets you to your ultimate destination.
It's really good. Really
And
good.
it's one of my favorites because it's like we could all start today and be like, hey, let's go to Disney. But if I get in the car today and get north on 77, I'm never going to make it to Florida. So that's the problem that so many of us have is we start with great intentions with our people. And I think Randy and all of us have had similar, like, I got great intentions, but until we get our direction right, we're not going to end up in our destination that was these numbers.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Really, really good. Well, and I'd share this with everyone too. A couple attributes, and Tony alluded to it, but I'm going to go deeper with it. He shows up not a doormat,
Oh, no.
because people here are humble, vulnerable, transparent, and think, no, it's not this top down thing. He shows up, he knows his numbers, and he
Excited
owns,
about it.
he just,
Yeah.
and he owns it. He owns it. He comes in and shows up and says, you know what? Listen, appointments are down, but look at where my emails. I knew this. Emails were down, so appointments were down. I mean, he comes in knowing his numbers. He's just simple and he's focused. Um,
So true.
Here's what I wrap
And
with. What would you
that's been a whole shift this year too. I mean,
Oh,
that's really
really?
been good for all of us. I mean, I think all of us, it's been really good for us to really,
Consciousness.
yeah, it's knowing and then that accountability. Because in the past, we might just look at one number and be like, oh, that was down. But now it's like intentional.
Yeah, they know whether their emails are down. I mean, they know
Yeah.
the big thing, the conversations, appointments, emails, what the baseline was, and it's just really simple stuff. But
Yep.
the simple solves the complex.
Oh, yeah. You always say
Let's
that. That's a good one.
here's what leave everyone with, because we know that there's a lot of folks in, and listen, it's not good or bad, it just is. Nothing's good or bad, it just is. It's what you do with it is where you can get into if you want to be judgmental with it. If you don't do anything with it, okay. But let's take a look at, our environment's had a lot of people that are behind last year, some substantially. What would you say to two things that leaders need to do? Right now, it's November 1, 2024. So it's a beautiful time because like you get to have a little bit of impact on the rest of this year, but 2025 is
Starts
impact in
now.
this window. What
Yeah.
are two things you would tell leaders to just obsess over and focus on? Or maybe it's just one to keep it really, really simple. If they can get that one thing right, then worry about everything else.
I would say the biggest thing that a leader can do is show up. Um,
Really
so
good.
they need to show up. So many times I think a lot of us there's a book that I read years ago that my dad gave me. It was actually his coach. It was the book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
And it was the idea, he was coach. That's who my dad hired as a coach years ago. I mean, this would have been in the 90s, early.
Wow.
And I remember he'd
Wow.
always say there's two, there's working on your business and working in your business. But so
Correct.
many of us are trying to create a business that we don't have to work, right? And
Yes.
I get it. We're all trying to, it's like that's what we're all shooting for. But usually we never are willing to invest in hiring the people that it's going to take to actually build out the business so that you could be kind of sitting in an ivory tower and never show up again. But that's really not realistic. As much as I always wish it was realistic, the minute I ever take my finger off the pulse, you can expect there to be casualness causes casualties. So it's first part is show up, be present, and lead the people around you. And you've got to educate yourself. One thing I've done this year is self-development. Every morning I do this morning call from 8:50 to 9:05. And for me to show up prepared, it requires me to be in I've got to be in everything, whether it's paying attention to what Cheplak's saying, to paying attention to, I don't care who it is. It could be a Tom Ferry, it could be a Mike Ferry, it could be a Brendan Bouchard,
Anything.
it could be a
Grab it.
Tony Robbins, it could be any of these people, it could be a Goggins, it could any of the people that are thought leaders out there. You're taking ideas and then figuring out how do you implement them and get people excited to start doing the disciplines they need to do. So that's been my daily thing. And then I can now go encourage people, and then I can influence more of my leaders to take what I do. Because one of the things that I did take from Dan Cathy years ago in a mastermind that I sat with him in, he said, the biggest struggle we had at Chick-fil-A was when we thought Boston Chicken was coming to town, we thought we were going to go out of business. The whole thing was like Boston Chicken was the new chicken place. It was going to, all my leaders were running scared. And he was like, we got really good at figuring out how do we take what we do around this boardroom and take it down to the front person that actually talks to the customer. And he's like, if you think of McDonald's versus Chick-fil-A, what's the experience like at the counter at McDonald's versus Chick-fil-A? And what is the cleanliness of the stores and the people that walk around? It was like he gave this whole example of how do you take what you are as the leader and get it down to the real estate advisors that are talking to the customers. And that's what I had to figure myself out, is by showing up. I've got to be able to deliver what I know to do, because I'm not the one talking to people getting listings. I'm not the one belly to belly, but how do I get that down to my leaders? And then my leaders to then have to take what I'm saying every day and take it down to the people actually talking to the people, working with the buyers, working with the sellers, the investors, so that I can replicate and duplicate sales at will. So that would be my message to them.
Awesome. I appreciate you, man.
Hey,
We'll have to
appreciate you too.
we'll have to do this again. Where's the best place? And I'll throw a little teaser out there. Tony might be packaging up all of his recruiting templates. Maybe not. No promises, but there've been
Yeah.
conversations that there could be a done for you product in that recruiting space to be continued. But where's the best place for people to find you, reach out to you, connect with you?
It's super easy. I mean, you can hit me up on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two spots. You can find Tony Hanson Real Estate or just Tony Hanson. Or if you want, you can call me, email me. My email is thanson@paraclerealty.com, or shoot me a text at 803-738-6375. If I don't respond quickly, I will get you pretty quick.
You can find him from Pelican Bay, right?
Yeah, I do. Well, no, I like Pelican Bay too. That's Florida. That's Naples, Florida. But Pelican
Which
Hill, I like
Pelican
Pelican Hill.
Hill.
Yeah, Pelican Hill. You can find me
I
on the
think we
West Coast.
went back to back to back because I went and had I think you were there, and then we had a lunch over outside the bar on
So nice there.
the little deck there looking over
Yeah.
before we were
Oh yeah.
going to an event. And then my daughter texted me and I said, I think you and I and one of my clients, we all been sitting hanging in the same spot. But
Yeah, no, I love
anyways,
there. Between the Montage in Laguna Beach, I'm
uh,
an Orange County guy. So now that I know Alex Yu is there too, I was like, we're gonna start hitting up. There's a new restaurant called Oceans 48. I'm gonna hit up. I try to go once a quarter. It's one of my favorite places.
smart move. Awesome. Tony, I
Appreciate you
appreciate
guys.
you.
Yeah, take
Thanks,
care, bud.
bud. Bye.